It's been a whole year since one of the toughest fire days in South Australia's history. Tonight, we'll look back at two of the worst disasters and see what we've learned and what's changed as the new season heats up. On December 20, 2019, at 9:17 in the morning, power lines sparked a blaze at Cuddly Creek in the Adelaide Hills. It swept towards Lobethal, Woodside, Brakunga, Harrogate and Mount Torrens. And by the time it was declared safe 2 weeks later, 23,000 hectares were burnt. The fire claimed one life, caused injuries to 51 firefighters, destroyed 98 homes, hundreds more sheds and cars, and resulted in huge agricultural losses. That same day, lightning started several fires on Kangaroo Island. Early in the new year, with resources stretched and conditions deteriorating, several fire emergencies combined and nearly half the island was burnt in a single day. In the end, 2 lives were lost, 87 homes damaged beyond repair, and animal losses were extreme, with 200,000 hectares of land burnt. Our reporter Claire Campbell has returned to Kangaroo Island and we'll hear from her soon. But first, Brittany Evans, who's a CFS volunteer, is in the Adelaide Hills 1 year on.
It's taken time and strength, but signs of healing are all around the Adelaide Hills. Fresh shoots are sprouting on the blackened trees on the property where Ray and James Rollovink's home once stood in Lobethal.
So this would have been veranda. You can't even tell anymore.
As smoke closed in around the town, James and Ray packed their things and evacuated, leaving a neighbour who tried to defend their home.
All he said was, "Look, I'm really sorry, but I can't save it." It was like a thunderbolt.
I mean, we had our plan and everything, but you still don't think it's going to happen to you, especially if you live, we live very close to town, and so we didn't really think it would get us, even though we were prepared for it.
Yeah.
Their 1990s house, like most in the Adelaide Hills, was built before modern bushfire resilience standards came in. A year on, the Rollovinks have sold their block and say their next place will have to tick certain boxes.
That's the first consideration. Is it defensible? Is there enough clearing around it? Does it have the standalone pump, diesel or whatever it might be?
Has it got a driveway the fireys can get up?
Yeah.
A few doors down, Adam Wynett is having similar thoughts about his future home. A year ago today, he saved 3 properties, including his business, but had to watch his own house burn.
It knocked the wind out of me to see, my dream of a forever home smouldering on fire and basically crunched in on itself. And it still does that today, to come to this site and be reminded of what I've lost, really.
Adam Wynett seriously considered moving from his property in Lobethal, but now the dust has settled, he's seeing a clearer picture of how he can rebuild and make his place safer. Like SA's independent bushfire review suggests, he believes a definitive guide on how to decrease the risk of a property being destroyed by bushfire would be helpful.
Events show that I shouldn't have been that confident, and probably what would have helped me be better prepared for any eventuality like a bushfire that we had a year ago was something like a bushfire expo, where in one place on one day you can get access to as much information and new innovations that are available to help land and property and homeowners be as prepared as they possibly can be.
Preparedness was a major focus of the state's bushfire review, with the need for automatic vehicle location or AVL systems to be installed in CFS trucks a non-negotiable factor. The state government has invested $5 million in the technology, which will be tested in 5 locations across the state this bushfire season, with a view to install it in thousands of trucks next year.
People get to understand the technology, get to see what they think works, get to test it in terms of the extreme environments in which we operate.
Reviews into Australia's fires don't say that people shouldn't live in bushfire-prone areas, but it does suggest more needs to be done to prepare the community and to educate them on the risks of living there.
Information Tina Zaddo, who lives on the other side of Lobethal, has already acted on.
I did the Fiery Women course and that was really, really informative in every way. I've got a firefighting pump and my son's looking for a trailer so he can set up a mobile unit. So all those sort of things will be put in place and hopefully it'll never ever happen again.
Tina Zatto is now waiting for plans to rebuild a home, but won't be able to build what she had. Like many, she was underinsured by $100,000. She's choosing to focus on building her happiness in other ways.
I haven't touched clay for many years and I think it's time, and hopefully that'll just give me something else to think about rather than the rebuild or the clean-up of the property.
The green shoots here in the hills have been easier to see because the fire ground is so close to the Adelaide area. But fires also cause serious damage to areas around Yorktown, Port Lincoln and Kingston in the southeast. But the state's biggest bushfire was on Kangaroo Island. Claire Campbell has returned to the island. And Claire, how are locals getting on?
Britt, the recovery process has really picked up pace. Homes are nearing completion and some families are preparing to move in the new year. The native vegetation and some of the wildlife is also returning. But locals are still very concerned about the ongoing risk of fire. They're calling for recommendations to state and federal governments to be implemented as a matter of urgency. So a fire of that ferocity, which causes this much devastation, doesn't happen again. Inside the worst hit areas on Kangaroo Island, ecologists are now optimistic about the recovery.
We have picked up some pretty amazing threatened species that have survived in some of these really burnt areas, but our biggest work now is trying to protect what's left while it's regenerating.
Fire tore through 2/3 of Kangaroo Island, claiming the lives of Dick Lang and his son Clayton, destroying nearly 90 homes and killing about 1 million animals.
Okay, we've got 320 images.
Work has ramped up since to survey endangered species.
There we go, look at that.
The island's biggest Dunnart population used to live in this area.
Look at him going in the hole.
Numbers have declined since the fires, but the nocturnal mammal has been caught on camera. A 370-hectare cat-proofed refuge has been established on the island's western end, which could be one of the only chances for the endangered species to survive.
We have evidence of Dunnarts in cat stomachs now, which has never been proven before. It's pretty groundbreaking to know that, yes, cats are predating on Kangaroo Island Dunnarts.
Hope of resuming a normal life is on the horizon for many other Kangaroo Island locals, with new homes nearing completion.
The last 3 months, I suppose, we've come in leaps and bounds and, been a lot of support and help out here.
There were no evacuation orders when the fire approached Josh Graham and Lily Buick's house, and it was a chance phone call to a neighbour that likely saved Lily's life.
And she rang me screaming because she couldn't see the road, and she just got out, so I was lucky. I was lucky more people didn't die, really.
A year on, as the couple prepares to bring a baby into their new home, concerns around poor communication and lack of warnings are heightened. While Lily ran for her life, Josh, like many other Kangaroo Island locals, was fighting the blaze on a farm firefighting unit.
The farm fire unit's second to none. They're the backbone really of the fire ground. So there definitely needs to be some improvement there, communication.
Keep pushing through, we're doing okay directly behind you.
CFS trucks were retreating when the fires took off, but many on the fire ground had no idea of the imminent danger. A state review has recommended farm firefighting units be incorporated into the incident management system so authorities are aware of their presence and can better communicate.
It's vital to move forward. You know, if we haven't learnt anything, well, that's a really sad day. So you just hope that we've been heard.
The dust is also settling on a rough year for neighbour John Simons, rebuilding his home, shearing shed and farm.
This is a devastating thing to happen to anybody, but to not learn some lessons and do something better, that's sacrilege.
He believes his property and dozens of others could have been spared if the vegetation and wilderness that Kangaroo Island is renowned for had been better managed, including permanent fire breaks through the national parks and prescribed burns, something which has now been formally recommended nationally.
Tracks through the middle of the park were miles better than watching it burn from north to south to east to west. And bearing in mind that happened in 2007, happened 2020. In the 60s, it burnt from one end to the other at that time too. You know, please don't try and tell me that's conservation.
I think if we can definitely increase our ecological burning and have a better management as a whole over the western end of the island, which is your most vegetated area, that would be fantastic so that we can prevent such a devastating fire from happening again.
Still to come on ABC News Sunday, we'll look back at some of the big fires on the east coast, which devastated large parts of New South Wales and Victoria, choking towns and cities in smoke.